How many of y'all have ever made a poultice? Poultices are pretty common. What would you say is the most popular poultice? Clay poultice, okay. Charcoal poultice? Potato poultice? Yes. Onion poultice? Yes, very popular. There's a type of poultice that's called, and we'll talk about it, called a spit poultice. Have you ever heard of a spit poultice? Have you?
Jesus made.
Well, he did.
Yes.
As a boy, we did spit poultices, and we'll talk about those in just a moment. So, okay, let's look at how to make and use herbal poultices. Now, again, everything that we're doing here this week falls within 8 boxes, 8 laws of health. So what box does this fall under?
Nutrition.
Could be nutrition, yes. As we use it transdermally. Do you know what transdermal means? It goes through the skin into the blood, like a nicotine patch, a nitro patch. Now, some things that we, as poultices, draw. Now, what draws? Charcoal. What else?
Onion.
Clay, yes. But what things push in?
Oil.
Castor oil goes in. Herbs go in. And so some things pull and some things push in. And so we're using 2 different methods here. For Isaiah had said, let them take a lump of figs and lay it for a plaster upon the boil, and he shall recover. Can we use a fig poultice? How do you do it? Well, we're going to talk about that. Yeah, figs can be used as poultices. And he answered and said, a man that is called Jesus made clay and anointed mine eyes and said unto me, go to the pool of Siloam and wash. And I went and washed and I received sight. Is that like a poultice? It is. And he took him a potsherd to scrape himself withal, and he sat down among the ashes. Well, we're kind of stretching it here. Ashes work if they are wet. If ashes are dry, they will not work as a poultice. But are ashes good? What did the man have? Who is this man? Job. What did he have? Boils or boils. And then is a charcoal poultice good for boils? Absolutely they are. Yeah. Now it doesn't say he wet it. It would have to be wet. A charcoal poultice does not draw. Poultices do not draw if dry. Does a clay poultice work dry? No, it's got to be wet. Charcoal has to be wet. An herb poultice has to be wet. So poultices can be used for boils, burns, tumors, bites and stings, rashes, infections, drawing foreign objects. Remember one time Walter, my oldest son, he was running down to the goat pen and he stepped on some ragweed. And he came back up. Mary Lou thought she dug thought she got it out. Well, after a bit, pain. How long was it, Mary Lou? Do you remember? It was a while. And started having pain, but it was on the top of his foot. And so we put a charcoal poultice on there, and boom, here comes a piece of ragweed out the top of his foot. It had gone, whether it went plumb through the middle or around it, whatever happened, he didn't step on it from the top of his foot, but it pulled that ragweed right out of his foot. Drawing foreign objects. Colds, flus, pneumonia, wounds, ulcers, nerve and muscle pain. Which herbs make good poultices? Aloe vera, burdock root, cabbage, calendula. How would y'all pronounce that one? Calendula or calendula? Calendula, okay. Cayenne, again, it's just regional, I guess, the way we say things. Cayenne, chamomile, chickweed, comfrey, the leaf, chickweed's leaves and stems, dandelion leaves, echinacea, elderberry, ginger, golden seal, jewelweed. Does jewelweed grow here? Do y'all have poison ivy, poison oak, poison sumac here? you serious? Y'all are blessed. You don't have poisonous snakes, and you don't have poisonous, what we call poison in the mountains. It's poison ivy, poison oak, poison sumac. Very terrible. Mary Lou just looks at it and she gets it. It's terrible, awful. Boy, it's fortunate. You really are. But jewelweed is the best thing I found. If you ever come to our neck of the woods and you get into poison ivy, jewelweed is what you're going to want. Charcoal works okay, but jewelweed is the best. Lavender, mullein leaves, and you found mullein here, yes? You say it does grow? It does grow, okay. So it's something you could grow here with intent. It doesn't have just to be a weed. You can put it in your herb garden. Mulleine's an herb, so you could grow it as an herb. It gets big, guys. It at least is going to get this big. But literally, it can get, some mullein plants get as big as this table, the diameter across. So it can get pretty good size. Nettle grows here? Okay, excellent. Oats, onion bulb, patiarco, plantain leaves, poke. You said poke does not grow here? Does plantain grow here? No, okay. Y'all have taters. We've been eating taters. I know they're good. They grow here. I think you told me this morning, we've already gone through, since I've been here, was 40 pounds of potatoes, he said. That's a mess of potatoes. Red clover, St. John's wort, thyme, and yarrow. And I know y'all have yarrow here. That's what I was told. Okay, is that true?
Yes.
Okay, good. So how do you use herbs topically? There are a number of ways to prepare an herb for topical healing, depending on the plant, depending on how quick you need healing, and how much of the project you want to take on. So let's say you get stung by do y'all have hornets? Okay, you get stung by a hornet. Do you want to use something fast? Yes, use a spit poultice or use a clay poultice. It's going to be very fast. Or a charcoal poultice, very fast. It's going to take care of the problem very, very rapidly. Types of herb poultices, you can have a fresh plant poultice. So this would be a fresh plant poultice, aloe vera. If you went and if you filleted it, took the meat out of the middle, and you applied it to the affected area. So let's, what could you use the aloe vera for that you could put the plant on top of? Burns, yeah, excellent for burns. How about, does anybody work in industrial stuff? Does anybody weld? Anybody a welder? Have you ever heard of someone burning their eyes welding? The best thing, and any welder will tell you this, at least where I live, is put a potato poultice on it. And that will immediately start working on that burned eye from the welding. You might look at a weld for just a few minutes, but you're going to burn your eyes if you look at it. You've got to have special goggles, like looking at the sun. Then the spit poultice. We'll talk about the spit poultice. Hot herb poultices, and that's where we'll make a poultice by putting like a tea. And so you were talking about what do you do with that plant material when you, an extract. Well, if you make a tea, you can, like a tincture or a decoction, take that herb and then make a poultice with it. Or if you're not making a tea to drink, then you can just pour a little bit of hot water on it. Bring the water to a boil, let it stop bubbling, pour it on there, and then you'll take it opens up those cells of the plant material, and then you can apply it to the affected area. That's a hot poultice. And then there's cold poultices that you can do. That's called a cold herb poultice. We'll look at each of these. Components of a basic poultice: the drawing material, the binder, which is optional, and a binder that I have here. My favorite binder is psyllium. Do y'all recognize this in this area? Yes. Psyllium it's my favorite for making a charcoal poultice. We used to make charcoal poultices with ground flaxseed. And then I hired a therapist out of Switzerland. And in Switzerland, they use this right here. And it just blows flaxseed out of the water. I mean, it is tremendous. It's not as messy, less propensity to tattooing. It's very, very easy to use. Psyllium. So there's binders you can put with it. You can grind up oatmeal and put with it. Here's their binders. The binders just to kind of help hold it together and keep the moisture there. See, if you have a charcoal poultice and you add water to it, it's going to dry out very rapidly. But by having a binder, that holds the moisture so it doesn't dry out as fast. And the psyllium does an excellent job for that. You're going to have moisture. It won't work with it. Apply to the affected area, wrap. You don't have to wrap it. You can just put it on there and hold it there for 12 hours if you want to. But you may want to put something on there so you can do something else. And so put you some type of do y'all call a gauze like a 4x4? Y'all know what a 4x4 is? Not the piece of wood. But you take a piece of gauze that's 4x4 in inches we use in healthcare and put that on top of it. Or you can take some paper towel and you can either apply the herbs straight to the area and then put some paper towel on top of it and wrap it. Or you can take and put the herb in the paper towel, wrap it up, and then apply it. And there's some wet paper towel in between as that package deal. You lay it on there. Wrap, optional. You usually want to do something else at the same time. Make a quick, fresh plant poultice. Identify the need. Number one, what's the need? What's your problem you have? You want to assess it. What's the need? Then determine which herb or herbs you're going to use based on availability, based on the acuity, how fast you need to do it. And then, so you're going to then choose your plant material that you want to use. One thing about herbs, you may have one herb person say, oh, you've got to use this herb. And then you have another person says, oh, you need to use this herb. Well, let's say that I was from Arizona and I said, oh, you've got to use chaparral. That's just the only thing to use is a blood purifier and to use for cancer. Do you have chaparral here? We don't even have it in Tennessee. It's a great herb, but do we always have that? No, and that's why this morning we went over the herbs that grow here, because you don't always have the ability, you may not always have the ability to ship it in. And so you want to use what God has put here for you. And so you may have an herb here that I don't know anything about. Like when I go to Africa, they got herbs I've never heard of there. They got food I've never heard of there, and boy, is it good. Oh, has anybody had a tree tomato? Anybody had it? Oh, wow. It's just, I mean, like you opened up a door into a whole new room. It is just fabulous taste. It's just amazing. And so there's some things that God has in some places and doesn't have an herb. So you may have an African get up here and say, oh, you need to use this herb. This is the only herb you need to use. Or you may have a person from Arizona say, you need this herb. This is the only. See, God puts herbs in different places. And so look and see what's in the area, if it's there or not. And then how do you know which herb to use? Now I'm going to get real scientific here. This is the highest science there is. There's no science higher than this. Ask God. Does God know what your problem is? Does He? He knows what the physiology is. He knows what is available. He knows what you can afford. That's a big one. And you say, God, which herb do you want me to use today? When people have cancer, this morning, I already had 2 people this morning. One was a person who works for the state of Tennessee. They're out of the revenue department. Sent me a message and said their mother has cancer, breast cancer. Help. I had a man in another county away who has a person that has cancer. Sent me a text this morning, help. And they'll say, what do I use? And I tell them, I don't know. And I send them 4 pages of all different types of modalities that we found to be beneficial in cancer. And I say, let me send this to you. Look them over, read them, and then I want you to pray and ask God which one to use. And then whichever God tells you to use, I want you to ask me, and I then can tell you how to do that. Now, some people would look at me and think I'm plumb crazy. That's not highfalutin science. But God is the highest in science. Would you agree? You got a doctor. You're a physician. Can you just walk up to somebody and know exactly what's wrong with them to the 100% and know what herb is going to do the best for them? No. We are finite. He is infinite in knowledge. And so when you go to God and you say, God, what herb do you want me to use? Now, does he just say, I want you to use mullein? He doesn't do that usually. But have you ever gone and bought a car, a vehicle, and asked God what vehicle to buy? I told Mary Lou something the other day she did not even know, 2 years ago. I had an opportunity to buy a tractor that I've been wanting to buy for, over 30 years. Over 30 years. Almost as long as we've been married. And it was a deal. It looked good. It ran great. It had brand new tires, a new paint job. And the guy was asking less than what he just paid for brand new tires on it. So basically, I'd be getting the tractor free, just buying the tires. Now, is that a good deal? That's a deal. So I prayed, God, I've been looking for this. Should I get it? No. I just had that feeling. You ever had that feeling? No? No. But God, I've been waiting on this a long time. For a week, we had this conversation. And I finally said, okay, it's you. No. And I was somewhere like this, and I was telling folks about how you do this and shared that, and Mary Lou didn't even know that happened 2 years ago. You've had that happen. God tell you not to do something. It might be a house that you're looking at buying. Can he do that for what herb you need to use? Yes, he can. And that is the way we need to do it. It's very important. So you're going to determine which herb to use. How are you going to do that? Pray, ask God, and then what do? You listen. Many times we pray and say, okay, I ask him. I'm going to do what I want to do. You got to listen. You got to listen. Estimate how much you're going to need. Apply the crushed leaf, stem, or other parts over the affected area. This is a fresh plant poultice. So you have a sunburn or a burn not a sunburn, that would be where you're rubbing it off. But you would take, let's say you burnt yourself on the skillet in the kitchen, and so you've got a burn place here or in the oven when you went to pull something out, so you get it and you put it over the affected area. That's what you're doing. Secure with a bandage so it doesn't fall off, so you can keep working. I believe in working. Leave for up to 3 hours and reapply if necessary. That's a quick, fresh plant poultice. Then there's mud poultices. Who's ever made a mud poultice? Anybody make a mud poultice? You ever got stung by a hornet and go down to the creek and grab you some mud, wet mud, and put it on there? That's a mud poultice. You can do that. I was sharing earlier this weekend that in China, Malaysia, Indonesia, if you get an asthmatic attack, they will strip you from the waist up, and they will take nettle, stinging nettle, not dried, not cooked, but fresh where it stings, and they will whoop your chest, and they'll whoop your back. The asthma attack will go away. Now you're still lit up with stinging nettle, and they will put mud all over you. And normally in Asia, they don't put it on you like they would in South America. They'll dig a hole and they bury you. And they'll put you in a mud hole and bury you with just your neck sticking out. And maybe an umbrella over you so you don't get burnt. And that then pulls that stinging nettle effect out, where you just got whooped with stinging nettle. But you can use a mud poultice for bee stings, bug bites, nettle rash that we just talked about, detoxifies, softens the skin, and it draws. Have you ever done a bentonite clay facial? Yeah. And then what you do is after the bentonite clay facial, have you ever put blackstrap molasses on it? Oh, now that's good, y'all. Do y'all have blackstrap molasses here? Okay. So what you do, you can just do a blackstrap molasses facial. And oh boy, your face just feels so good. It's glossy, really glossy. But if you want to really do a facial, do your bentonite clay for about 30 minutes, wash it all off, and then put the blackstrap molasses on it, or molasses as some people call it, and then leave it on there for about 30 minutes, and then wash it off, and oh my, your face just feels so good. The ladies really like it. Fig poultices. We talked about that earlier. One of the highest plant sources of calcium and fiber. Split open a fig and soak it in warm water to create a poultice. So what if you have a dried fig? The same thing. Cut it in half. It's easier to cut when it's dry. Cut it in half. Put it down in hot water. Who was it here that was at Mayman Wilson's? Mayman does this. Soak it in it. It'll hydrate. And then you can put it on the affected area. You can take a fresh fig and take your spoon, clean it out like you're cleaning out an avocado, put it on the affected area, then put a dressing on top of it. And figs are very good for a poultice. Place a thin layer of the gauze over the affected area, then apply the fig poultice. You can put the fig just plumb against it. You don't have to put the gauze between it. Change every 8 hours or twice daily. Cancer. Figs are great for cancer. Very good for cancer. Abnormal growths, boils, cysts, pain, scar tissue, breast lumps. The two best things I know for cysts and breast lumps, well, this is what I know that works the best. Castor oil. Phenomenal for those. Works extremely well. But you can also use a fig if you don't have that. Or if God tells you to use figs instead of the castor oil. Aloe Vera Poultice, repairing damaged skin, treats wounds. I make a wound salve. I'm not sure if I'm going to talk about that later. Maybe this afternoon I think I might talk about that one. Yeah, I'll talk about that one this afternoon. Remind me on that one, Mary Lou. A wound salve that works very, very well on wounds. It has aloe vera in it. Reduces inflammation and itching, promotes wound healing, redness and flakiness of psoriasis, frostbite, burns. It's excellent for burns. Aloe vera, we were talking the other day, if it's raw aloe vera juice, they're finding that it causes stem cell regeneration. Isn't that cool? That's pretty cool. Yeah. A lot of times we'll use it for internal, like ulcerative colitis, Crohn's, gastritis. You'll drink 2 to 4 ounces 3 times a day on an empty stomach. You can easily drink a half to a whole liter a day of aloe vera. Aloe vera is food. The Mexicans use it for food. They'll take it and freeze it, and it's like a little popsicle. They eat aloe vera. They have big old aloe vera down in Mexico, and they cook it and fix food. Do they use aloe vera in your country? Yes. Aloe vera is food, yes? Yeah. Jewelweed, we talked about that earlier. Jewelweed Poultice, poison ivy, poison oak, poison sumac, which you don't have here. But if you come to see us, remember this. Or you're a medical, why are y'all here? Why are y'all here this week and next week? What's your goal? You're learning to be medical missionaries. Yes? And so you may have phone calls that aren't just from Sweden or from Norway or from where y'all are from. I get calls, I get emails from Japan, Australia, Africa, Germany, literally all over the world. And so you need knowledge of other places so you can help them out. So if you get a call or an email or a letter from someone from America who has really bad poison ivy, well, now you know how to treat that person. So don't just look at your own neck of the woods, because you may need to help people other places. Eczema, insect bites, and stings. It's real pretty. Jewelweed, it blooms in the fall. It starts blooming around August, September. August, September, it's full bloom, the flowers. It's a very viscous. The flowers are yellow or orange. You can tell it's jewelweed. If you're not sure, the root kind of turns like this, and below the ground is a reddish color. Cabbage Poultice. Now this afternoon, or sometime, not this afternoon, but sometime this week, we're going to do a Cabbage Poultice. Who's ever made a Cabbage Poultice? Yes. What do you use them for?
For healing of wounds.
Okay, a wound? Inflammation?
Breast inflammation.
Yes, breast inflammation? Yes. How about pain? You can actually use it for pain. It works really well for hemorrhoids. I had this guy from England, flew all the way from England to Virginia because he had hemorrhoids, external hemorrhoids so bad, and the doctors couldn't help him in England, in London. So we were doing various treatments for him. Don't do this mistake. I told you I make mistakes. Mary Lou tell you how many I make. I make a lot of them. So I went to the kitchen. We put this cabbage on him at night. It's just a little more comfortable at night on a hemorrhoid than during the daytime. We did hydrotherapy during the day and the douche and several different things. So it's about 9 o'clock. He's going to bed. Staff had left. I said, I'll get it for you. So I went to the kitchen, to the refrigerator, opened it up. We were out of green cabbages, but we had a red cabbage. That'll work, won't it? It worked. So I got it out and I got the leaf off and beat it so it would call bleeding. Got it for him. He took it, applied it. The next morning he told me he stained the sheets, stained his pajamas, stained our carpet that was in the room. I mean, just messed up a bunch of stuff. I would have been better to say, maybe I need to go either to a skip tonight or go to the store, which was about 20 minutes away, and come on back, or we should have pre-planned that one and not been out to start with. But it's a mess. Don't use red cabbage. It will make a mess, I promise you. Hemorrhoids works extremely well for hemorrhoids. Relieves pain, insect bites, burns, boils, varicose veins, speeds healing, draws out infection. I have a friend that he'll go places and he'll have wounds that normally we would put charcoal poultice on, and they just didn't have charcoal. And he didn't have time to make it in activated charcoal. And so what did he do? They had cabbage, so he put cabbage poultices on, and it worked quite well. Draws out infection, bruises, lymphedema. Potato poultice, burns, work real well. I was at work one day. This guy comes in. He's a maintenance guy. He's Filipino, dark pigment skin, and that's an important component here. darker pigment skin is more prone to scar. Well, he's a maintenance guy, and the furnace wasn't working. It was a propane furnace. So he goes over to the propane tank and turns off the propane. He comes over to the room where the furnace is, and he goes to turn the light on, and the light bulb's burned out. No problem. He's got his big lighter. So he goes down to the furnace, gets down. It burnt all his hair. Burnt all, no eyebrows, no eyelashes, no hair up here. His face was burnt, but then he looked like, no, I might be stepping out of where I am. Do y'all know what a 1957 Chevy is? Some of you? And remember how it had flames painted on the side of it? Okay, well, they did in America. And that's what his face looked like. It looked like flames, marks. Not only was it burnt, his neck up and his scalp and everything, he had marks of flames, even worse burns. So we put him on the exam table, and I had a quart of aloe vera gel. It's the first thing we started on. So I just started pouring the aloe vera gel on him. It would disappear. I put more. It would disappear. I would put more. It would disappear. His face was like a sponge. I used the whole quart on him. Then I called up to the dietary department and I told them to get some potatoes and to grade the potatoes. And so what they did is they took one of these and they started grading it. My grandma taught me this. We used so much potatoes, they finally took a food processor and started doing them. And we took this wet material and we put it from here up here, except on his eyes. And we went and got an aloe vera plant and we took a fillet and put it on his eye. And the only thing was a dot here and a dot here for him to breathe. We covered his face with this. And then we got more, then I was out of gel and I got aloe vera juice. And I started pouring aloe vera juice on top of the potato. And at first we were doing it about well, have you ever put potatoes on a burn, like a sunburn? They'll dry out. And when they dry out, remember when the material dries out, it won't work. And so we put it on the face and his face was so hot, it dried the potato out. And so I would gently take the potato off, get more aloe vera juice. I started with gel, then I went to juice, and just put it on his face and kept his face saturated, back and forth and back and forth, and I ran out of aloe vera. And so a physician had donated us a bunch of aloe vera plants, big ones. And so I had some therapists that were out of Venezuela and out of Colombia. You heard us talking about Najalith the other day at breakfast, Najalith and Chris Pfeiffer. Najalith was there. Maria Parra was there. They're both out of Venezuela. And we had some girls from Colombia, and they started making out of the aloe vera plant, they started making aloe vera gel, just fresh aloe vera. Back and forth for 5 hours. We treated his face. His wife came in, we trained her what we were doing, she took him home and kept the process going. He had no scarring, none. And we had a physician that wasn't there that day, and he then came and saw him, and he said if he had used what was in the emergency room, the man's face would have no question been scarred for life, as deep as those those burns were. Ain't God good? Yeah. Just a tater, what we had to eat for dinner yesterday. Yeah. Burns, boils, swelling, mastitis. If you have mastitis, it's good for mastitis. Inflammation, a sty, spider bite, infection, ear infections. The best thing for an ear infection, take a teaspoon. Now this is not a, what do y'all call this? Tablespoon? Okay. You want a smaller one, what we call a teaspoon. And you could do this one, but you don't need this much. Take a teaspoon and fill it 70% full of olive oil. 70% full of olive oil. And then take golden seal and put some golden seal in there. About a half a capsule, not a lot. You want it still to be drippy, but you don't want it, you want as much of the golden seal material as possible. If you get too much and it gets too thick, what do you do? Yeah, some more olive oil in there. Don't throw it away. Yeah, put some more olive oil in there. And that'll work. Then what you do, can I go over here? And what you'll do, maybe I'll go here. This will be easier for the camera. Then I have the person that'll lay their head over to the side, and I'll take say a butter knife, and I'll take it, and I'll drop in 3 drops. Rub it like you'd rub something down a dog's ear. How do you say it? Dog. Yeah, we say dog. You rub it like you would rubbing it down a dog's ear. And then you take, you know what those hot packs that hunters use, that it's a little thing that you pop it and it's hot, and you put it in your pocket and it keeps your hands warm? Y'all have those here? Put that on there. Every 2 hours, put another 2 drops in there. Normally, an ear infection is gone 12 to 24 hours. That's rapid. No antibiotics, just God's. Well, there is an antibiotic. What did I just use? Golden seal is an antibiotic, but not a pharmaceutical antibiotic. Now, if it's a young little child, just 2 drops. A baby or a young child. I had a man come in one time. His ear infection was so bad that his ear was like this, totally closed. I mean, totally closed. Couldn't even get down in there. And so I took that formula and I took an eyedropper and I pushed it as much as it would. Obviously, you know the length of the ear canal, and I didn't want to, destroy his eardrum. But I pushed as much and I push it in there and just rub it and put heat on it. Just kept doing it. It took us a couple days, but the infection went away. It opened back up and got good. Yeah, it's amazing. Hemorrhoids, potato poultice. A carrot poultice. Now, who's thought of using a carrot poultice before? Yeah. It's real simple. You're going to use it just like you use the tater. Just like you use the potato.
More colorful.
It is more colorful. Yeah, Mary Lou liked that. She likes color. When I was in Africa, one lady leaned over to me one day and she says, "Why are you Americans so just blah?" She says, "You just wear gray and black. You need color, boy." They have color in Africa. Carrot poultices draws toxins from the body. Sore throat. So you can put it around your throat. Put a poultice around your throat. It's good for a cold on the chest, the flu on the chest, tonsillitis on the throat, bronchitis on the chest, swollen glands, wherever those swollen glands are, cleansing of the lymph, wounds, burns. You know you had that poultice, did you? Boils, abscesses, chapped skin, cold sores. I like, for cold sores, what works the best I've found is something called L-lysine, L-lysine. Take the capsules, and then you use the L-lysine cream. That works phenomenal. That's the best thing I found. Eczema, bruising, muscle problems. Now, when we say muscle problems, make sure what the cause is. Is it you overexerted them? Or is it because you have muscle problems like restless leg? Or do y'all call them Charlie horses? Okay. You know how sometime at night your leg goes, and it's real tight? We call, pardon? A cramp. Yes, we call those Charlie horses. I have no idea why, but that's what we called them for years. 75% of muscle pain, not of overexertion, but 75% of just muscle, like restless leg or Charlie horses, is magnesium deficiency, 75%. Next is dehydration. Next is potassium. Next is iron. Iron is the third major. And iron deficiency is increasing significantly according to the emergency rooms. Why? People are eating processed foods. They're not eating their greens. Very important. Torn tendons and ligaments. Who would have thought? You know, do you know people who have torn tendons or ligaments? Put a carrot poultice on it. Reduce pain, swelling. A spit poultice. Y'all been waiting for that one, haven't you? Identify the need. Determine which herb or herbs you're going to use. Estimate how much you're going to need, and chew up a leaf or two. You don't have to chew it up. A plantain is probably the #1 spit poultice in the world. Y'all know what plantain leaf is? Chew it up, apply it to the area. Spit it out, place on the affected area, secure with a bandage. Warning, it may not taste good. Can anybody guess? Now, I'm from the South. Can you guess what the #1 poultice that was used in the South where I grew up? Tobacco poultice. A tobacco spit poultice. If you got stung by a bee or a hornet, we call it a chaw. You've ever heard of chaw? A chaw of tobacco means they give a big old thing. That chew tobacco here? Well, we call that a chaw. Or chew, but they call it a chaw. A big old piece sticking out over here. Do people do that here? And so then what they'll do is they'll put it on the bee sting. You may not want to do it that way. But what we would do is we'd find somebody with a cigarette, or a cigarette was partially burnt. We'd open it up, the paper, spit in it, nice and spitty, and then put it on the wasp sting. And that tobacco would pull that sting right out. That's just what we did where I grew up. Now you can use the mud poultice, works well. The charcoal poultice works well. But that was just another spit poultice. Jewelweed Poultice, it's good for poison ivy, poison oak, poison sumac, stinging nettle, eczema, insect bites. We already covered that. A plantain spit poultice, there we go. Well, that's a jewelweed spit poultice. Works the same as the other type. Plantains, and that's the #1. Can anybody tell me the #1 essential oil used in America, in the world? Lavender. Lavender is the #1 essential oil used in the world. #1 spit poultice in the world is plantain. Spider bites, bee or wasp sting, insect bite, animal bite, snake bite, or tick bite. Bob Jorgensen, we talked about Bob Jorgensen earlier. Bob reached into a wood pile and a copperhead bit him on the hand. At that time, I was still working in regular health care. The average length of stay at the hospital, average length of stay for that diagnosis was 7 days. If you got bit by a copperhead, you would stay for 7 days at that time. Bob was back at church playing the piano in 3 days. Vicky, his wife, she used charcoal and plantain back and forth as a poultice. Amazing, isn't it? Do y'all have ticks here? Okay. Rocky Mountain spotted fevers, Lyme disease. You have Lyme disease? Okay, there's something we have for Lyme disease. Works very, very well. My youngest son had Lyme disease, and when he got it, and we treated it for 10 years, and then we just couldn't get rid of it. And then I found out something called Aloe, which is a very, very strong garlic. Takes 24 cloves to make it. They make it just down the road in outside of London and in England. And this month, he will be 12 years Lyme-free. Plum Lyme-free. So it works very, very well. All right. Well, let's close with prayer. We started with prayer. Let's close with prayer. Our dear Heavenly Father, Lord, we thank you again for caring about us, for giving us these simple remedies that we don't have to have toxins. Lord, give us a desire, give us a hankering that we want to learn this. And then, Lord, not only just have the academic knowledge, but then, Lord, give us the ability we can apply it and be able to help and not be selfish, just using it for ourselves or our family, but also give us the desire to help others using these tremendous herbs that you've given us. We ask this in Jesus' name, amen.